to Live at Bird TV. So I've decided to do a video this evening based on the fact that obviously I'm reading a lot on Twitter and on social media about obviously fans being up in arms with regards to transfers and FSG and whether or not, you know, they're going to spend. A lot of people saying FSG out. I'm just going to give you this version of what I think will happen, and you can just decide what you think of it and comment on the video. But I actually think that this is unique. This situation which is happening right before us, it's never happened before. Now I'm going to go through it steadily, but what I'm saying is there is an argument that there has always been an argument that FSG could have spent more money. That is something I've never ever said shouldn't happen, but I've always backed the reason why we haven't, and that goes based on the fact of our success. I mean, it's hard to argue with the way things were being done when we're winning leagues, Champions Leagues, Super Cups, League Cups, FA Cups, losing 2 leagues by 1 point, and then you know, nearly winning the quadruple. So it's hard to argue with that. But there is a reason why Klopp has never ever demanded transfers, because I kind of think that he was thinking exactly like I was and many other Liverpool fans were, which was, you know, I believe in this squad. Why wouldn't I believe in this squad? This squad's getting me to 3 Champions League finals, a Europa League final, 2 League Cup finals, an FA Cup final. So Klopp sort of stuck with his squad because it was the squad that, you know, they're like a family, aren't they? But he's kind of been frustrated over the last couple of seasons, Klopp has, and he's gone, well, yeah, we could have done this, we could have done that. But he's starting to edge now towards the words of, we need to take more risks in the transfer market. Right, that was a few months ago. Now, FSG are faced with something they've never faced before, which is they back Jurgen or they lose the football club. That to me is exactly what will happen. If they lose Jurgen, they lose the fans, they lose the fan base. So what I'm saying in this video, the reason why it's been on my mind all day, I was going to do it in the morning, but I just thought, fuck it, I'll get it out of the way now. And that is, the chess pieces have moved now, right? Klopp could have moved forward and gone, look, here you are, John, you know, we need a few players here. And Henry would have then moved back and gone, well, hang about here, you know, why? We've won the European Cup, we're in the final again last year, we nearly won the league, and I don't think we need that much. Okay, I'll give you Darwin Núñez, you can have that one. You can imagine these conversations going on behind the scenes. All right, so I wanted the lad that's just gone to Real Madrid, the midfielder, I keep forgetting his name, but you know, that really, really good midfielder that's just slightly played, I think he plays for France. Klopp probably wanted 3 major targets, probably got 1. So it came to the compromise of, yeah, we don't need that many. All right, well, I want Jude Bellingham. Then you can imagine them coming back going, yeah, it's not available yet. They've just sold Erling Haaland to Man City. I know this myself, that Dortmund have a fan-owned structure, just like 90% of German football clubs, and they never sell 2 major players in the same window. They just don't do it. They never have. They never will. So I always knew that we would be waiting anyway for Jude Bellingham. The problem we're waiting for our targets is FSG are going to get the stick because it looks like they're not spending. But I actually think they are. I think the money's sat there and I think it's ready to go. I think it's been a mixture over the last 12 to 18 months of Klopp and FSG sort of coming in the middle and going, yeah, we'll just wait. We waited for Virgil van Dijk, you know, we waited for Luis Diaz. All right, we moved quicker for Luis Diaz and got him in January because in the summer, you know, we would have lost him. So I kind of get it. But the ball game has changed now. And even I've changed, because those of you who have been watching my videos for the last 18 to 24 months would have known I've always gone, oh, let's keep it how it is. All right, if we bring in 1 player, great, I'm not bothered. But that's because we were doing great. I wasn't wanting, I'm not now agreeing with people that have gone as stupid as saying FSG out or Klopp out. They're just idiots. I'm actually looking at it like, okay, it's not working. The difference is when Klopp has gone to John Henry and said, we need this, we need that, we've been sat second in the league or top of the league or in the Champions League final. So John Henry's probably gone, I'll just give him that, because it keeps the club running on the league structure. And to be honest with you, Klopp, look what he's doing. We don't need to go out. And I think FSG were proud, like Jurgen and like we were, of the fact that they could do it on that net spend and they could compete at that net spend. But the problem is, and I said this yet in my crisis video I did, is the ball game's changed now, because Newcastle have come along with Saudi investment, so we're now not going to be competing with one oil gosh in the league, we're going to be competing with two. Todd Bowley's took over Chelsea and he's throwing money about like a typical crazy American, right? The FSG are not crazy Americans, they're structured businessmen. But the problem is one thing I will give them credit for is when the fans turn or say enough is enough, that's not FSG out, it's FSG sort it out, they listen. When it happened with the trademark in Liverpool, they listened, they got rid of that. When it went to the tickets of £77, they listened, they went with that. When it went to the Super League, they listened, it went with that. So what I'm saying to you is Jurgen Klopp has now got the major move in the chess piece, because he can say, if you do not act now, two things are going to happen. One, you can forget Champions League football next season. We'll drop into the Europa League at the very minimum, maximum. We might not even finish in the Europa League. We might end up in the Europa Conference. Can you imagine that? Right? If you don't act now, two things are going to happen. One, that could happen. Two, I'll go. I'll leave at the end of the season, and he will. Klopp will walk at the end of the season, and the problem FSG then have, it's a double checkmate. Checkmate if they lose Champions League football, and checkmate again if they lose Klopp, because the fans will go. Everyone will go. That's it. I can't defend you anymore, FSG, if you do not act in January. Now, I'm going to go on to the next bit now, and that is basically transfer targets. People say there's none in January. Well, there is. There's plenty. Yuri Tillemans, he's got not a lot of time left on his contract, right? So he's available, right? You've then got Caicedo from Brighton. Pay the right money, he's available. Brighton always sell if the price is met. That's the way they've always been. So there's no shit about the fact that there's no transfers available, because they're in. And then there must be targets around the world that are available if we pay the money. So what I think will happen is Klopp will now have a crisis talk. Now, can you remember when Klopp said after the Super League, he was fuming when he got interviewed pitchside at Ellen Road, and he said, I will sort this. And I can imagine he'd have picked up the phone and gone, if you go through with this Super League, I'm off. I guarantee you that John Henry changed his mind, because not just the fans, but Jurgen would have gave him an ultimatum. I can see the ultimatum happening again, because I believe that Klopp has took abuse, and so have FSG, and I reckon they've both sort of bit their lip a little bit and just gone, listen, we're all right, we'll weather the storm, we'll finish strong. But we got away with it in the season where we, had no defence. We got away with it and finished third, which was a freak season. But we won't get away with it again, and I'll tell you why we won't get away with it again. The Premier League is too good now. Let's not forget that when we went and finished third, when we didn't have a defence, Man United were at the worst they've ever been. I mean, they had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they were shocking. Chelsea were in transition. I don't know if Chelsea were with Lampard, they were, weren't they? Arsenal were in the dogs, they wanted Arteta out. It was a very sort of easier Premier League then, but it isn't now. You have got Newcastle United, every single win they get now, they are thinking, we are never going to have a better chance to break into the top four than now. And I can see Newcastle not standing still. In January, they will go again. They will try and bring in two more big players, and they'll just get stronger and stronger and stronger. This is James Milner's last season. He's been a legend. I love him to bits, but he can't play another season. He's done. Jordan Henderson, love him to bits, great captain. He can probably play one game in every three. He's got to come to a tail end now, possibly in the same sort of role as Milner. He could be the next Milner for us. He's probably got 18 months left. Bobby Firmino will leave at the end of the season on a free. He'll probably go to Barcelona. This is what I was trying to bang on about the other day. We are going to be in for a major shift now in terms of the squad, and we're going to be in for a major rebuild. So what you got to have as a supporter through that, you've got to have patience and you've got to have an understanding. I know somebody used a quote to me the other day that Ferguson always managed to keep going and keep going. There was a bit of a difference then, and I'll tell you what it was. Fergie was the richest, he owned the richest club in the world, and he could just buy the best players for the best money. He was no different to Pep Guardiola. Nobody really had the major money back then, but the problem you've got now is everybody more or less has a billionaire owner and they can go out and spend money. Say for example Arsenal, Forest even spent 150 million. So the problem is now there's just too many people trying to get at the same meal. It's like 6 people eating a 2-course meal. Everybody's trying to get in, and it's not gonna, it's a dog eat dog world. So now you've got to be ruthless. So I'm gonna stick my neck out on the line and say this is different. So what's going to happen is in January, Liverpool and Henry and Klopp are going to have an ultimatum. They're going to basically just go, right, you back me or I'm gone. You back me or this club is just going to nosedive, and we could end up being like Man United playing Europa League football. For if it can happen to Man United playing Europa League football for the last 2 seasons, it could certainly happen to us. So we have to act. Now, the reason why we have to act isn't because I'm agreeing with those people I've been arguing with for the last 2 years when they wanted signings in. Listen, when you was arguing that point, we were winning trophies. When you were arguing that point, we were 1 point off winning the league title and nearly winning quadruples. The difference is the game has now changed. These players have to come in now because not 1, but 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 Liverpool players are going in the next 12 to 18 months, and that is the core of the people that won the trophies for us, and those people that are really, really, top notch in terms of what we're used to at Liverpool. Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, all of these players. Virgil van Dijk's 31 now. They're all coming to the end now of a major cycle change at Liverpool. So what we have to do now is keep a few of them, to keep the winning mentality and to bring them in and out. We've got great youngsters coming through like Ben Doak and Doherty and Harvey Elliott and Carvalho are getting more games. That's what's coming out of this, which is good. But then we have to go in January now and we have to nail 2 certain central midfield players for the long term. Casado's 20, it makes sense. He's Premier League proven. You don't get injured, get him in. Get Naby Keita off the wage bill. He's a complete waste of money, and he's about as reliable as a car with no wheels. So, at the end of the day, I do believe it's changed now, because I believe that Klopp has what's called the checkmate piece, where he can say to to FSG, look, you back me, us I'm out of here, because I don't want to ruin my legacy with the Liverpool supporters and it turns out nasty in the end. So if you don't back me now, then I'm going to go. And obviously I'm going to also factor in this decision as well. The reason why I think that FSG will bring forward a lot of money in January is because they've just obviously got a bigger major investment now with Redbird Capital, but also they know that they've got the fallback of 61,000 seats now being at Anfield within 6 months of the January window. So if you look at it like that, they know that if they're sitting in the Europa League and if they're sitting 10th in the league, then 61,000, no disrespect, but I've been to Anfield a lot of times, and I'll tell you, when I used to go every single week and I never had a problem getting a ticket. When do you think that was? Under Brendan Rodgers, when we were poor and mid-table, because guess what, there's no loyalty from fans when it comes to scrapping for places mid-table or going or scraping to try and get to top 4. They want to be around for the titles and the Champions League nights, because you get the Glory Brigade that come and watch all them games. But I've been there in the piss down rain in Stoke when we got beat 6-1, and I'll be there throughout the Roy Hodgson days if they ever come again, because that's what a real supporter does. So all I'm saying is, I have seen so much Liverpool in my life, 3 decades worth of ups and downs, that I can already see there's going to be a few more bumps in the road before we get this sorted, because it's going to be a change to get, this new Liverpool look. Now, yeah, you can use Sir Alex Ferguson as a as an example, but he only had to replace one player a season. So when Van Persie went, or Van Nistelrooy went, he replaced him with Rooney. When Rooney went, he replaced him with Van Persie, you know, that kind of thing. But this is different. Klopp's got to replace Mane, which he's done with Diaz, Firmino, which he's done with Nunez, Salah in the future, he's got to replace Fabinho, he's got to replace Matip, he's got to replace, you know, Milner. He's got to replace 4 or 5 or 6 players. So in my opinion, it's going to be a bit more bumpy, but the best thing we can do this season is go strong in the January window and get enough to finish top 4 and then rebuild in the summer. Go and get your Jude Bellingham. If it costs us 100 million, it costs us 100 million. But I'm not bothered. If we get overpriced and they come out with 150 million they want, walk away from it. We are not Man City, we are not PSG, and I quite like it like that. Let Newcastle and Man City throw the oil money about. Let us do what we've always done, but let's do it a little bit more clever. I want more quantity this time. I don't want us to waste all of our budget on one player. Bring in, rather than spending 150 million on Bellingham, if we don't, right, spend 60 and 60 on 3 top players. You get 3 players for the price of more or less what you're going to pay for one player. Bellingham gets injured, that's your whole card's gone out the window. So in my opinion, we need to bring in quality quantity, rather than just one major target. But I do believe in January we will go again, and I'll keep saying this, it's based on the fact that the game has changed. Before, when everybody was raving about FSG needing to spend and we need players, we were winning leagues, we were winning European Cups, we were winning trophies, we were 2 games from a quadruple in a league title, right? We were so close. So there was a counter argument. The problem is now it's there, everybody can see it. This time the expiry date has expired. 4 or 5 of our players are done. People say they're knackered. They probably are. They've been at high intensity for 5 straight years. You ever seen the film Rocket? When he's the first one, he's like in his old gym, and then, you know, he can fight the eye of the tiger, and then he starts getting the money and fame, and he changes. He becomes weak. He becomes less driven. It's no different to these players we've got now. They've won everything. They've lost that little bit of, I'll run that extra mile because I haven't won the European Cup. I'll run that extra mile because I haven't won the league. And that happens in every team. That's why you've got to reinvest and bring in players of high intensity and energy and people that want to win the things that we've already won. It's easy to win things. Well, it's easy once you've won a trophy, Souness used to say, to then go on and win more. We want the ones coming in that haven't won anything yet, that come in and want to literally win everything. And that's what we had years ago. We had that will to win because we weren't the best team in the world, but we became the best team in the world. Klopp and FSG are the perfect match, in my opinion. They need to sit down together. We go again, we reinvest, and we become the great Liverpool we are. You'll never walk alone.